Good evening. I'm Latrice May Daniel reporting for the Richland County Alumni Chapter Emergency Response Team. The vision of the Delta Emergency Response Team is to serve a reflection of our sorority's desire to protect and preserve all lives of our members as well as our community members who may be participating in our chapter events. While material objects can be replaced, we all know that lives cannot. Thus, it is our responsibility to ensure measures are taken effectively to prevent, mitigate, prepare for, and to respond to recover all incidents and emergencies. To best prepare you for today's event, please allow me to share a momentary safety brief with you and the emergency response protocols that we must follow. COVID-19 precautions. Please wash and sanitize all hands regularly. Masks are optional. Medical emergencies. Should we have a medical emergency, an emergency response team member will dial 911 to report the emergency, as well as alert our building contact on site. The AED is located to my left, which is your right, on the wall right over there, in the rear of the sanctuary. Please allow plenty of space for our responders to provide medical attention that is needed. Should you require minor assistance on site, please notify any host to provide assistance. Building evacuation. We should have a need to evacuate. Emergency exits can be found to my left, which is your right. Please proceed to the nearest exit in a safely manner. Please assist those individuals with physical limitations to ensure they are evacuated out of the facility safety. Please congregate at the designated evacuation meeting location through those exit doors at the rear of the building, where all will await for the responders' instructions. Weather warnings. In the event of inclement weather emergency, our building point of contact will provide guidance on where we can meet and stay in shelter. See something, say something. Be cognitive of your surroundings, and if you should note of any suspicious activity, please call 911 and alert one of our hosts. In the event that any of these emergencies occur, our hosts will support fall first responders and manage the situation. This concludes my safety brief. A quick disclaimer, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is a nonprofit organization. All candidates, Republicans, Democrat, Independents, running for office are invited to participate. The sorority is nonpartisan and does not endorse any candidate. Although our colors, red and white, are associated with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we do not affiliate, or we are not affiliated with any political party. Thank you for your time and enjoy the political forum.
Good evening. Good evening, good evening. My name is Lavelle Thornton, and I serve as president of Richland County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is an international organization devoted to sisterhood, scholarship, service, and social action. We are excited to host, in collaboration with Columbia SC Alumni, National Council of Negro Women, Every Black Girl, and the Columbia Area League of Women Voters for this gathering of the women. A conversation with South Carolina District 19 Senate candidates. This event provides an opportunity to learn more about the candidates and their positions on important issues affecting our community and state. It also provides an opportunity to engage with constituents and stakeholders. This is a critical time in our state and nation, especially as we mobilize to prevent and/or minimize voter suppression efforts. We also need to assure voter turnout. We need record turnout to send a message. We will not go back. However, we must start in our own backyard with District 19. So, thanks in advance to our candidates for your time and service, our coalition of like-minded organizations, and all of you. You have heard the acronym TEAM, T-E-A-M, together, everyone achieves more. We must work together to educate and to create positive change for our communities. Our vote is our voice and power. Thank you for your attendance tonight and enjoy the forum. Thank you. I forgot to note one change on the agenda. The greetings and invocation will come from Elder Rosalind Glenn, and then we will follow the agenda as outlined. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Lavelle Thornton, and I would like to welcome you to the Brook, the place where we like to say it's the place to be, the place to believe, the place to belong, the place to become. On behalf of our Bishop-elect Simeon Moultrie and Pastor Nikki Moultrie, we welcome you. We welcome you to fellowship with us even after today. We're here every Sunday, and we welcome you to join us as we try to spread the gospel of Jesus. I will ask you now to join me as I invite and invoke the presence of Holy Spirit. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you now for this privilege to be able to serve in this capacity and offer our facilities for this most important forum. Father, we thank you that we know it is our obligation to try as best we can to build your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. And for that reason, Father, we thank you for these candidates that have offered themselves to do just that. We pray right now that you would put your spirit in them and every decision that they make, God, that they make it according to your will and your way. We thank you for your word that is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. We thank you that it leads us and guides us and shows us all the ways of you, Father. We pray right now for the candidates. We pray, God, for the constituents in this community, God. We pray that you would lift the apathy that we see so often in people, the hopelessness, dear God. We pray that you would replace it with hope, cause them to get engaged, cause them to be informed, cause them to be educated, help them to understand their roles and responsibilities to be a part of this whole organization, to be a part of what we're doing, to be a part of the community, dear God, to build, as we said, your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Father, we pray for the needs in this building of every individual. We thank you that you are such a mighty God, that you are able to know what we all stand in need of, and more importantly, you are able to supply every need that is here. And so, God, we thank you for that now. We thank you, dear God, for just the privilege to be able to be a part of this. We thank you for this facility that we're able to use. We thank you for the presence that we felt that resides in this place always and forever. And God, now we say, give us what we need to make informed decisions, to be community-minded individuals. We love you, we appreciate you, and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good evening. My name is Zenata Donaldson, the Association Chair of Richland County Alumni Chapter. The purpose. The Senate District 19 seat is vacant due to the death of Senator John Scott. The special election to select the senator to complete Senator Scott's term will be held on Saturday the 2nd, 2024. A primary election will be held next Tuesday, October the 24th, and it will determine who will represent the Democratic Party in this special election. The winner will then run against his or her opponents on January 2nd, 2024. It is very important that you listen and be informed, as you will soon hear from District 19 Senate candidates. So at this time, I will introduce to you the partnering organizations and as they come to bring greetings. Also, even though we have physical bodies here, we are also live streaming on YouTube. At this time, we're going to have Carrie Elliott, President of the Columbia Area League of the Women Voters, followed by Arlene Prince, President of the Columbia SC Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Then we will have Lorenda Melton, President, National Council of Negro Women, and then we will have Monique being Program Director of Every Black Girl, Inc. Thank you.
Good evening. The League of Women Voters since 1976 has been involved in hosting presidential forums, candidate forums, and other events where we're designed to empower and inform our electorate. Tonight, we are glad to partner with the Richland County Alumni Chapter Delta Sigma Theta Sorority and our other partners to make sure that the voters of Senate District 19 are informed, have the information they need, and the tools that will help them to make the best decision, because an informed electorate is a powerful electorate. Thank you all for coming out, and enjoy this evening.
Good evening. I am Arlene Prince, Chapter President with the Columbia SC Alumni Chapter, and I bring greetings from more than 400 women that are affiliated with our chapter. We are so delighted to be here this evening and honored to participate and be a partner with the distinguished groups that are partnering with this event tonight. And for those of you who may be unfamiliar with our organization, we are a sorority that's that was founded on Christian principles with emphasis on public service. And with this in mind, we are very committed to engage in activities that will help us to do things that will impact the lives of individuals within our communities. And we look forward to hearing from our candidates this evening, and we realize that as a partnership that once we are stronger as we unite together, and we believe that the partnership this evening will make a significant impact in our communities. Once again, we are very happy to be here, and we look forward to hearing the discussion this evening. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Loranda Melton, the president of the National Council of Negro Women, Columbia Section. And we are very excited about tonight, and we thank Delta Sigma Theta for the opportunity. Of course, they are one of our affiliates. NCNW, actually, it was founded by, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune back in 1935. And we are an organization of organization. And our mission is to lead, to advocate, and to empower women of African descent, their families, and their communities. And so with that, it gives us a network of about 1 million women. We have 33 affiliates, of which Delta Sigma Theta is proudly one of our affiliates. And so we are just delighted to be a partner with them tonight and to engage in this discussion. We thank you for being here. We hope you enjoy it, and we hope that when you leave, you'll be better able to make an informed decision on October 24th. Thank you so much.
Hello, I am Monique Bing. I am the program director at Every Black Girl. I'm standing here on behalf of Vivian Anderson, our founder and director. We're excited to be here and hear the conversations that we're going to hear tonight. A little bit about Every Black Girl. It's a nonprofit organization that works with Black girls in middle school and high school. We work with girls to help them thrive wherever they see that at. We believe as an organization, in order for our Black girls to thrive, the world around her have to thrive. And so we're excited to be here and hear this. If you want to hear more about our programs and our upcoming conference that's next Saturday, you can definitely see me on the outside. Thank you and have a good time.
Hello, I'm also from the League of Women Voters, and my name is Cynthia Flynn, and I'm going to be the timekeeper. And our moderator, who's going to be introduced next, is going to provide the rules and so that everybody knows what we're doing. And the other thing that the people who are wonderfully doing all the mics said to speak loudly into the mics.
Thank you.
Good evening. Oh, that was slow, people. This is the day the Lord has made. Good evening. Right, good evening. My name is Tracy Richardson. I am the South Carolina Social Action Coordinator for Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I'm also a proud member of Richland County Alumni, which is also a part of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I have the distinct privilege of being able to introduce a first in the house. Miss Talisha Edie is the local host of the South Carolina Public Radio Morning Edition, a national news program produced and distributed by National Public Radio. Miss Edie was recently featured as the first African-American woman to serve in this position. A native of South Carolina's Low Country, Miss Edie is an award-winning multimedia journalist, receiving numerous awards, including the South Carolina Broadcasters Association Radio Reporter of the Year Award, and several Radio Television Digital News Association of the Carolinas Awards. So at this time, the next voice you will hear is our distinguished moderator, Miss Edie. Give her a hand.
Good evening, and thank you for that, Sister Tracy. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Can you hear me all right? Nice and clear. Okay. So since we have 4 Democrats running for the seat, a primary election is needed. The 4 candidates, Johnny Cordero, Javar Juarez. Thank you. Javar Juarez, Cambrell Garvin, and Tamika Isaac Devine. They will compete in the Democrats' primary election, which will be held on October 24th, 2023. The winner of this race will compete as the Democratic candidate in the election, which will be held on January 2nd of next year. All of these Democrats are here tonight. Also present is Kizzy Small, representing the Republican Party, and Chris Nellums, representing the United Citizens Party. One candidate, Dr. Michael Addison, is running as an independent candidate with no party affiliation and was not able to be here tonight. So on January 2nd, 4 candidates will be running for the Senate District 19. These are the rules for tonight's forum. The candidates are seated at 3 tables, as you can tell. The first 2, starting with my left, on my left-hand side, are those Democrats that are running in the Democratic primary on October 24th. At the 3rd table to my right are the candidates competing in the January 2nd, 2024 election. They are not involved in a primary election, just a general election. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order by table by last name. In the interest of fairness, we will rotate who answers first. This means, Mr. Cordero, we will start with you, followed by Isaac Devine next. So I'm going to keep going, almost like a round robin. After the questioning is completed, each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement. Due to time limitations, I will ask all of the questions. No questions will be asked from the floor, but the candidates will be available after tonight's forum to answer individual questions. So there is your chance. The questions are chosen from a list developed by the partnering organizations which we just heard from, and they were edited by the Columbia Area League of Women Voters. Each candidate will be allowed to respond to every question. A 90-second time limit. They will have a 90-second time limit to answer each question, and that will be strictly enforced by our timekeeper here. And again, our timekeeper is Cynthia Flynn from the League of Women Voters. She will help the candidates keep track of their time. She will also give a 30-second warning, a 15-second warning, and then hold up the card that says stop when your 90 seconds are up. In order to get more questions in, we must switch to 30 or 60-second responses times towards the end of the forum. The candidates will not be allowed to interrupt one another while answering the questions. Of course, no inappropriate language, no name calling, etc. will be allowed, but I don't foresee we will have that problem here, not in the house of God. No time is allotted for rebuttals. Candidates can make clarifications during the time allotted to them for answering questions. And with that, we will begin. So our first question tonight, starting with you, Mr. Cordero. What motivated you to run for this Senate seat, and what strengths will you bring to the job if elected?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. What motivates me? Compelling question. And I have to give it one answer and one straight answer, and that is my grandmother. Her name was Jessie Lee McCrary. She raised me, gave up her life at 38 years old to take me and my sister in. And one of the things she taught me over all the time was, you always got to fight. She said, I don't care how big they are, you got to fight. If they're bigger than you, pick up a brick, a rock, or a stick, but don't come home defeated. And if you do, I'm going to take you right back out there and you're going to fight until you win. That's what motivates me. I now find myself in South Carolina, the place where 70% of the African slaves came to this country. 70%. The place where the first shots of the Civil War were fired at Fort Sumter. The place where the secessionist papers were signed in Columbia here. And I recognize now that we are at a crossroads. And the crossroads we are at is that they are taking everything they possibly can to turn the clock back. They're trying to bring Jim Crow back. And if we don't have fighter in the Senate, they're going to do it. Jim Clyburn has said that that's where we are. We're looking at the return of Jim Crow. I'm a fighter, and that's what we need.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Tamika Isaac Devine, what motivates you? What strengths will you bring to the job?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here, giving honor to God because we are in the house of the Lord.
Amen.
And to Bishop-elect Moultrie and Pastor Nikki in their absence, thank you for hosting. What motivates me is a deep desire to serve the community. I grew up in District 19. I'm a lifelong resident of this district, and I've always been a public servant. I'm forever a public servant. I love serving the community and doing what I can to make the community a better place. My parents always raised me, instead of complaining about something, you get in there, you roll up your sleeves, and you get to work. And I've always done that, whether it is as a former Assistant Attorney General, making sure that I am helping draft and pass legislation that makes the lives of our families and communities safer, whether it is as a almost 2-decade public servant in the city, making sure that I'm an advocate and a fighter for those who live in the city of Columbia, and even since I've left office, continuing to serve the citizens as a community advocate, working really hard in the community. The strengths I bring to the table is I'm a fighter, I'm a listener, I'm a person who gets things done. I don't care about title or position, but I care about actually getting things done, and I don't care who I have to work with to get things done. So I'm continuing to work in the community, and I will continue to do that as your next state senator. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And a quick housekeeping note I forgot to mention, just a reminder that mics are hot, and so please govern yourself accordingly. And also you have 90 seconds to respond to the questions. With that being said, Representative Garvin.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. And thank you to all of the other partner organizations for hosting tonight's event. As was said, my name is Representative Cambrell Garvin, and I've had the distinct privilege of serving as a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives now for almost 6 years in January. What motivates me? The future motivates me. Ensuring that we're leaving and making tomorrow better and brighter for those that will come behind us. There's a poem that I like that's by Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays that's called God's Minute. And it talks about the fact that we all are only given 60 seconds. And what we do with that 60 seconds will certainly have an impact. For my 60 seconds throughout my life, since the age of 12, I've been working in my community. I've been organizing in my community. I went up to Winthrop University, and I was student government president at Winthrop University, still organizing, still serving. Went down to Colleton County and served as a 6th grade science teacher, again, still organizing, still serving, and teaching the next generation of young minds. So throughout my time in the legislature, I've also used my minute wisely by advocating for issues of importance, by being a voice for the people in my community. So I am running to certainly continue that legacy of service. I'm running to continue to utilize my 60 seconds that God has granted me to leave the world better than I found it. I'm honored to be here tonight. Thank you to each and every one of you all for coming out, and looking forward to a great, great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Juarez.
I'm going to stick to my script. My name is Jafar Juarez. I'm the president of the Broad River Business Alliance. To each one of you, thank you for being here. Bro, Pastor Simeon, sponsors of tonight's forum. And to all these distinguished candidates here, I love being with you too. I believe that when women face challenges or are marginalized, society suffers. Currently, women and girls are under attack. While many fringe groups advocate for their own interests, it's crucial that everyone stands up for women's rights. Rights for girls. The pressures women face is immense in this country, in this state. The history of the United States has shown us the detrimental effects of oppression and violence against women, and particularly Black women. For a prosperous nation, a healthier state, we must prioritize better health care, accept federal assistance, and expand programs like Medicaid. It's crucial to prioritize the health and well-being of individuals capable of menstruating and giving birth. In this state, it's easier to obtain a condom than it is to obtain a pad or a tampon. Thank God for organizations like Revolution Red that are working to end period poverty in this state. I am motivated to protect women because for what is good for women is good for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nellums.
Good evening to all of you. Godspeed upon all of you. I am motivated by the Creator in an innate way, understanding that God created all of us in our own image, in His own image. I'm excited about this race because we have an opportunity to do something different. Things that have gone on over the years, now we have an opportunity to have someone elected that will actually look out for the well-being of all the people. That's what motivates me. The fact that we have an opportunity to take a step forward. You know how you're living now. Some of us are living subpar. Some of us have problems with our rent. Some of us have problems with our lights. Some of us are having problems with domestic issues. And today, this evening, we have an opportunity to address not only the issue, but someone who can go back in the back room without any special interest and deliver for you as a people. Being able to hold our heads up high and say that we did it together. And so that's what motivates me this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Nellums. And rounding out for the first question, Ms. Smalls.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to be here before you all. I am here because I am motivated by my faith also. It is God who gave me the passion for the political arena so that we can base policies upon the Bible itself. I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm also a grandmother. I've been through a lot. I have served my community over 20 plus years. I also serve in the affordable housing industry as a compliance specialist. I'm a licensed realtor. I believe in entrepreneurship, and I also believe that we can truly make a difference when we put aside partisan politics. We can actually do more for the people, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to give the people another option because I believe it's time to do something totally different because what we have been doing is not working. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamika Isaac Devine, we'll start with you with this question. What measures, if any, can the state legitimately take to control the reproductive life of its residents, and what enforcement would you support?
Thank you. Amazing question. There are several things from the state standpoint. First of all, we need to make sure that we have legislators up there that are willing to take the fight to the State House, not just stop bad legislation, but actually introduce positive legislation that addresses our OBGYN deserts in the state, that allows expansion of Medicaid for our residents, that expands options for women. As a mother who has had 4 pregnancies, 3 that have had successful births, and one that has not. I have been on the forefront of being at a doctor's office and not knowing how I'm going to get care. And I live in the capital city. But our next state senator will make decisions not just for District 19, but throughout the state. And so what we need to do is have someone who's up there to introduce legislation that will expand Medicaid, while also protect our doctors so that our doctors are not worried about the advice that they're giving mothers on decisions to make when they might have a child that has some issues. Like I had a child who had an umbilical cord and did not have a heartbeat. So I think we need to look at how are we going to address these things. In addition to those things, I think we also need to make sure that we are educating our citizens on the options. And so right now we have nonprofits who are able to do that, but they are scared, Planned Parenthood and others that are scared to give options. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Garvin.
Question.
Yes. What measures, if any, can the state legitimately take to control the reproductive life of its residents, and what enforcement will you support?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question. About a year ago, we saw the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And I'll tell you, a lot of folks throughout this nation, a lot of women who fought for reproductive rights in the 60s and the 70s, never imagined that we would go back to the days where women didn't have the opportunity to make healthcare choices about their bodies. And I think as a legislator, what we have done is I've taken the well. I've been an advocate for reproductive freedom because I think reproductive freedom is a healthcare right. Women should be able to make those sorts of decisions because reproductive freedom, it shouldn't be where the government is in one's business in regards to certain decisions. And so I am very concerned. And we have been fighting, and when I say we, House Democrats, Senate Democrats have been fighting to give women in this state the opportunity to be able to choose. And so we will continue to do just that in the state Senate. I don't think that, oftentimes people in this state in many counties don't have access to hospitals, don't have access to OBGYNs. People in the state who have gone through IVF, I can't even tell you how many folks have called me because they were afraid about whether or not they would lose their embryos because it impacted them. So this is a real issue. It's an issue that we have to continue to advocate for in ensuring that we as state legislators do our part to ensure that women have reproductive freedom, that women have healthcare freedom, and that we get out of folks' bedrooms and making decisions about their personal lives and their bodies. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Juarez.
In August 2023, South Carolina Supreme Court upheld a 6-week abortion ban. The shift occurred as Justice Kay Hearn, the only female justice who had written the pivotal opinion against the 2021 abortion ban, retired. The man who replaced her, Justice Gary Hill, solidified an all-male high court, the only one in the country. In South Carolina, the balance of power is skewed. Women are primarily represented in family courts, with few reaching higher judicial seats. Senate Majority Leader Shane Macy has suggested revisions to the selection process, but it remains to be seen if these will be enough to ensure equal representation. It's worth noting that in the 1990s, every justice on the state Supreme Court had legislative experience, bound by a 1996 law that mandated a waiting period for lawmakers transitioning to court positions. Ultimately, the heart of this matter is the perpetuation of patriarchal and supremacist perspective, challenging the essence of equality and justice, that which requires the complete intervention by the citizens of South Carolina to demand that the voters and the governor select judicial candidates. The political dynamics behind this shift are very telling. And while most states entrust their voters or governors to select court justices, in South Carolina, lawmakers hold the reins.
Thank you, Mr. Juarez. Mr. Nellums, same question.
Yes. Reproductive rights has always been a controversial issue. Me being a churchman, it has been one that the church addressed. And me understanding those in the community and what they experience, it brings a collision. And so when we start talking about basic things like abortion or birth control, we need to get down to the bare facts of it all and deal with that and how we're going to deal with it. I hear folks say often that this is a right. Me being a man of God, understand that we make choices, and the choices we make sometimes are not in our favor. I am for and supporting those that are moving toward helping women. Been doing this for years. My mother served in a lot of organizations like the YWCA and dealt with women issues. And I was there on the forefront, so I understood what was going on. And so as a legislator, I realized that I need to take everything that happened back in the 60s and the 70s and use it today to help those women that are being marginalized. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kizzy Smalls.
When it comes to reproduction, I stand for life. For personal reasons, I survived an abortion myself. And then 14 years later, I was pregnant and my family wanted me to abort my daughter, but I chose life. So that's my personal opinion as it relates to abortion. But I believe that there's a lot of misconceptions. I believe that we need to allow or educate and make people more aware of why abortions are being performed. Less than 5% of abortions are done because of rape, incest, or the life and death of the mother. Almost 95% of abortions are done because of socioeconomic reasons or I'm not ready yet. So I believe when I hear woman's choice, I hear that women need more options. We need to encourage them to adopt. We need to let them know that contraceptives are available. The Republicans are not trying to get rid of your contraceptives. We need to let them know that we're here for them. A lot of times women choose abortion because when they turn to the fathers are not there. They turn to their families and there's no support system. So I believe we need to give women more options and let them know that there are other options out there before they choose abortion.
Thank you. Mr. Kodera, what measures, if any, can the state legitimately take to control the reproductive life of its residents, and what enforcement would you support?
Let me begin by saying I have 11 children and 20 grandchildren. Let me tell you that I have cut the umbilical cord on 7 of my children. Okay. I witnessed my wife giving birth, and I witnessed the strongest person I have ever met in my life. I'm talking about physically, emotionally. But here's what I believe about this, and it's very simple for me. If you don't have a uterus, you shouldn't be in this issue. Leave this to women with their doctors for their advice. So what can we do about it? The case that overturned Roe v. Wade was a case called Dobbs v. Jackson. In the case, what the Supreme Court actually said was there is no constitutional right to abortion. However, the states and their representatives, the people of the states and their representatives should make the decision as to where it is. So where does that leave us? That leaves us in South Carolina, when we can do what we need to do by ensuring that women have that right in South Carolina. And that can be done by a senator. And a senator, even in a House that is overwhelmingly Republican and overwhelmingly, I believe, extremist, you can tie up the Senate. Send me to the Senate, and that's what I will do. I will make sure that we change the law, or nothing will happen in this state. I'm a fighter.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Garvin, we're going to start with you for our next question. According to a report by the South Carolina Maternal Morbidity and Mortality Review Committee, Black women are 67% more likely to die during childbirth or due to pregnancy-related complications. Rural pregnancy-related deaths were about 70% higher than those in urban settings. How would you address these health disparities if you are elected to serve in the Senate?
This is an amazing question. And it's an amazing question because it's a real issue. I'll tell you, as a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, I have been the leading proponent on issues that have related to Black maternal health. I introduced a bill about 2 years ago that would have addressed the issue of Black maternal health. And that bill actually got out of the subcommittee that was chaired at the time by Chairman Leon Howard, and it made it to the floor of the House. And as I watched the board, and I watched all of those red votes of people that were opposed to a bill that addressed the issue of Black maternal health, I was flabbergasted. The bill barely passed the House. It went over to the Senate, where it died. And this bill would have directly addressed those stats that you just talked about, where Black women are 3 to 5 times more likely to die in childbirth. It's a problem. It's something that I've been sounding the alarm about. And while I can't give birth to children, I have a mother. I have a wife. I have a wife who now struggles with hypertension as a result of childbirth. So being able to understand these things, being able to see these things, I'm not just talking about things that I want to do, I'm talking about things that I've done. And I want to continue to be a champion. And I think being the senator will give me an even greater platform to elevate the issue of Black maternal health in our state, because we are in a crisis. And if we don't address it, we will continue to see Black women die.
Thank you very much. Mr. Juarez, how would you address these health disparities?
Well, it's necessary for us to step into the private sector. Whenever you go into the communities that are the most underserved, you see how difficult it is to gain access to urgent care or primary health care providers. And yet the state provides so much supplementation in the billions of dollars to Prisma Health and other large-scale insurance groups that rake up billions of dollars annually from people who are in a degraded state. It's necessary that if we're going to change the F that the March of Dimes gives to us in the state of South Carolina because of Black female birthing maternal rate, it's necessary that we protect our people by changing the environment that they're in. We can't expect for there to be an increase in prosperity, vitality, or strong children when we have people who are in a degraded state. We understand that PFAS chemicals are running rampant across our communities. More importantly, it's very difficult to be able to find space in our communities to put in private sector healthcare providers. We can't retain enough of our medical students to be able to put them back into our communities. It's time that the private sector steps up, and not just for profit, but we're gonna have to be about purpose and protecting the interest of people so that we can see progress. If you want healthier people, make sure that grocery and medical access is close to home. That's how we're gonna be able to move forward and address many of these disparities.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nellums.
Yes. I had a distinct opportunity to travel across this state several years, this past several years, and I looked at, in particular, how we live throughout this state. And some of us are living well, and some of us are not living so well. And one of the things that always come up is economics. We don't have the dollars flowing in our community that we supposed to have. And so when I look at some of the disparities that are going on in terms of these rural counties and women that are not getting the proper health care, I find out that, again, it goes back to economics. And so one of the things we have to do is build our infrastructure, and I'm talking about our economic infrastructure throughout the state of South Carolina. We have some things that can benefit us all. But I think we have to have what you call a come to Jesus moment and understand that nobody really is going to help us. We have to help ourselves. And that means that we have to invest in ourselves. One of the major issues that I see right now is that hemp could do a whole lot in the way of economically stimulating this economy. And that money in and of itself will help those that are needed.
Thank you very much. Ms. Smalls.
When it comes to disparities, I believe we have to, again, I agree with many of the panelists here, that we need to work on economic development, because when we have better health care, we live longer, we do better. Also, we need to make sure that there's proper funding getting to the organizations that are helping these women. A lot of times the money are going to the big organizations and not getting into the hands of those who are really doing the work. A lot of those programs are our education and awareness programs. And if the ones that are on the ground are not receiving the funds, then the word is not getting out. So we definitely need stronger health care, getting to the undeserved communities, and we need to make sure that the money is getting in the hand of the right people.
Thank you. Mr. Cordero.
Quality health care for all. It's a very simple answer. The pie is not too small. It's the way the pie is cut up. They give the money to the people that they want to give it to. They build hospitals in the places where they want the hospitals to be, and people get left out. And we know who those people are. So what we need to be doing and what we need to be talking about is, yes, all of these things about economics and all of that, but we find ourselves where we are. And where we are is in a situation where there are areas that do not get quality health care. There are areas in which we should get quality health care, and we can make it happen. A fighter in the House, in the Senate, can make it happen. Make them divide the pie so that our people get what they are entitled to, and every dollar that's spent on a hospital somewhere else should be spent on a hospital in our area. The hospitals are licensed. They're licensed by the state. The hospitals have to build in places where we want them to build, in places where they are needed. There's an old saying, it is the noisy wheel that gets the oil. We start making noise. We start making sure that our legislators let us know what's going on and uncover all of those disparities in economics and the disparities that arise from how the pie is cut up. There's more than enough. There's a slush fund. Remember that. That slush fund is money that they don't want to spend, that they put aside. Put that money where it should be spent. That's what we need.
Thank you very much. Tamika Isaac Devine, if elected, how would you address these health disparities?
Thank you so much. And I want to be very clear. The statistics are daunting, but they're very specific that Black maternal health has very little to do with economics. It has more to do with disparities in the way that we are treated. Black women particularly, are looked at that we can handle more pain and that we can deal with other things. I mentioned that I've had 3 successful pregnancies, one that ended in a stillbirth. My very first pregnancy, I was on bed rest for 5 weeks before I had my daughter. Once she got to the point where they could actually induce, she was delivered 2 weeks early because my blood pressure was high and her heart rate was going up and down. When they actually took her by cesarean, they found out that she had an umbilical cord around her neck. Had they not listened to me and I was let to go more, something could have happened to me or something could have happened to her. I had the best health care. I was here in Richland County, right down from Richland Trauma Center. So it's not about that. It's about making sure that we have educated doctors, that we have diversity in our doctors, that we do expand Medicaid, that we give rural health care centers the obstacles or the materials to actually help, and that we also support intervention and technology. We have a great woman here locally who has a technology company who actually her app will help Black women monitor their births.
Thank you very
so we
much.
need to expand those things. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we're going to start with you, Mr. Juarez. For several months now, reforming our state's Judicial Merit Selection Committee has been in the headlines. That's the committee that assesses the qualifications of judicial candidates. Just this Wednesday, yesterday, Governor McMaster released his proposal for a new application for magistrate judges, requiring potential magistrates to disclose additional information prior to an appointment. Do you support reform, and if so, what changes would you recommend?
What I recommend is essentially that the community get involved at all levels of government to begin with, including this particular commission. The way that judges are selected needs to be reformed. We need to put the selection of judges into the hands of the people and the governor. I understand at the end of the day that some people may have problems with the governor, I being one of those individuals, but I believe it is necessary for us to get closer to the kinds of judicial processes, the Supreme Court that we want to see, that the community be involved. Make no mistake about it, everybody has to be actively involved in this process. Don't think that we're going to give this over to somebody and they're going to be the fix-all. They're going to wave a magic wand and magically this is going to happen in a Republican-led supermajority House. It's going to take a lot of pressure from the community. I do not understand why we don't yet understand that, but let me let you in on a little secret. Your presence is required. When it comes to the judicial selection, we should be engaging with our commissioners. We should be every Wednesday, every other Wednesday at the State House petitioning this. We already said here just moments ago that the legislator holds those reins securely, and they're the ones that really are driving the Supreme Court. And to have an all-male court, the only one in the country, that's pretty alarming. How did we get there? We as a people have pulled back from our State House. And if we really want to see the change that we know that we deserve, it's going to take all of us collectively and collaboratively to step in.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nellums.
This is one that we should pay close attention to, these judges and how they're selected. Now we're talking about magistrate judges. That is the ground level of where most of us will see a judge. And that judge, in and of himself or herself, should have the ability to communicate with folk, common folk. And what has happened, and Henry McMaster really wants not only the magistrate judges to have a higher level, but he also wants all of his General Assemblies, and senators and legislators, we want all of them to be lawyers. That's a problem within the community because then you lack the representation. So we have to have that closeness where we'll be able and that we will be able to actually communicate with the magistrate judge on a level of comfortability. This is critical. And if we close our eyes on this matter, we're going to have big trouble. I think that we as a family, a group of people need to rethink our position in terms of how we elect our state senators, knowing that whoever goes downtown cannot have any special interest or any special group attached to them.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Smalls, do you support reform of the Judicial Merit Selection Committee?
I do support reform. I heard a couple of the issues that they actually have. One being that there's a panel in the General Assembly that chooses these judges. So there's some conflict of interest there. There's some biases there. So because of that, I believe that that's our job. When we have problems within our system, we need to fix it. So I believe that this is a good time for us to look at it and to make sure that it is being fair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cordero.
Stop believing the hype. Don't let nobody tell you that being a judge, you gotta have a college education, you gotta be a lawyer, you gotta be all that. The Supreme Court of the United States, you don't have to have any of those things to sit on the Supreme Court of the United States. A judge's job is to weigh the facts and to make the decisions according to the law. Anybody can do that. Here's what you should do. Get rid of that panel in the first place and simply have a standardized test that people can take, and then make a selection from among those who pass the test, and that's how you serve. And remember that up until maybe 10 years ago, I may be off on the time, but somewhere around 10 years ago, maybe, a magistrate judge, and we're talking about magistrate judges here, a magistrate judge didn't even have to have a high school diploma. So give me a break. The best judge I've ever met, and I've been before many judges, the best judge I ever met was my grandmother, and she went to the 3rd grade and she could solve any problem in 2 minutes. Stop believing the hype.
Ms. Isaac Devine.
And can I get clarification? I know the proposal by the McMaster was magistrates, but are you talking about overall judicial reform?
Yes, do you
Okay.
support the reform of the Judicial Merit Selection Committee?
Yes, and so just to be clear, the magistrates don't go through the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. So there is some things that we need to do with our magistrates, but when you're talking about the Judicial Merit Selection Committee, that's different levels. Yes, I do support some revisions to that. I do think we have to address judicial merit selection. I think that number one, we need to allow for more candidates to come out of judicial merit selection. I also think that we need to have more public input in that process. We need not just public be able to have input and testify, but we also need to give some members of the public some ability to make some choices there. Then we also need to look at expanding our diversity among judges. Right now, yes, we have an all-male Supreme Court. Likely in the next year, we'll have all-white male Supreme Court. And so we have got to look at all levels and how do we open up judicial positions to diverse perspectives, diverse views, and then how do we make sure that they are trained, that they don't have conflicts, that attorneys that may be in the legislature that appear before these judges do not participate in selecting them. So there are a lot of things that we can do to Judicial Merit Selection Committee, but the most important thing I'd say about the magistrates are, yes, we need to have diversity in magistrates, but we also need to make sure that magistrates are trained. A lot of times people look at a revolving door and they talk about bond reform, but the legislature actually passes the laws. When bond is set, all you have to show is that someone's not a danger to the community and that they are not a flight risk. And so if those are the only two things you're looking at, the magistrates are very limited in denying bond.
Thank you very much. Representative, same question.
Thank you. And so as a member of the General Assembly, I've had the opportunity over nearly the past 6 years of being a part of the process of selecting judges. And I'll tell you, as having seen the process up close and personal, I too agree with what many on the panel have said tonight, that there is need for reform. Powerful lawyer legislators should not serve on the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. Quite honestly with you, I think that our process in South Carolina, I think that there are many strengths to it, but I think that whether there be a conflict or not, the appearance of a conflict certainly leads to folks in the community not having faith in the process. And so I think that I will tell you, there is a move. The Speaker of the House, Merle Smith, has already put together an ad hoc committee. The proposals are already coming out down the pipeline. The Senate President is doing the same to reform how we elect our judges. So just to peel the curtain back a little bit, the 170 members of the General Assembly, the members of the House and of the Senate, come together during a joint assembly, and judges come before us and before they to be voted upon. Oftentimes, by the time judges get before us, a decision has already been made in the back rooms. As Democrats and as black folks, we ought to be very concerned because we are losing black judges. Judge Clifton Newman is up, Chief Justice John Beatty is up, Judge Allison Lee is gone, Judge Benjamin is no longer there. We are losing black judges. In Richland County, if we don't protect black judges here, where do we have them? So I want to sound the alarm on that. And magistrates actually do have to go through JMSC and be rated as qualified or highly qualified. So I do want to clarify that.
Thank you
We have
very
the issue with
much.
Strickland.
Okay. Very important question there. Mr. Nellums, the next question, we're going to start with you. What do you see as the role of schools in addressing mental health issues of students, and what ideas do you have for addressing students' mental health problems?
Mental health. Well, first off, schools in and of themselves are not the facility that is needed, is used to address mental health. And so that's something that is outside and has to be brought in. And then the school itself needs to have activities that will allow that student to be able to spend a little time in school as well as spend a little time with an agency. And I'm gonna use this as an example. We have a program that deals with young folk who have behavioral issues, mental health issues, and they go through what they call a cycle, but they don't miss any time in school. And so I think, for the most part, if the schools will work with the mental health organization, I think they will be able to bridge that gap. So that's.
All right,
Yes.
thank you very much. Kizzy Smalls.
When it comes to mental health in school, right now is real burdensome on those that are in school. I believe that it goes back to family first, community first, that should address these issues, these behavior issues or mental health issues before they come to school. When children are faced with dealing with all of these issues in school, it makes it harder to learn, and this is one of the problems that we currently have in public education. So I believe that and the schools are already working with outside mental health personnel, but it's a lot. It's a lot on them. So we really gonna have to step up as parents and as community to help our teachers. Our teachers are leaving in droves because of the behavior issues. They cannot deal with the mental health at school. We need to deal with it on the outside.
Thank you. Mr. Cordero, what do you see as the role of schools in addressing mental health issues of students, and what ideas do you have for addressing students' mental health problems?
Schools are the first line of defense. Schools are the places where these children can be identified. So the problem is we have to have in the schools, we have to have people who qualified professionals who are able to recognize and diagnose mental difficulties. And we have to have, along with that, we have to have funding to get the proper help for these young people. Identification and funding. That's what needs to be done. It's a tragedy for me to see the number of young people, kids who have now have mental difficulties, but it's something that we have to deal with. It's a reality, and we have to deal with it. Identify them. The teachers are the first ones to see this, although parents may do it as well. But teachers will definitely see it, recognize it, identify it, and fund them so that they can give them the help that they need early on before it becomes problematic and flows outside of the home and outside of the school.
Thank you very much. Tamika Isaac Devine.
Thank you. First of all, we need to make sure that all schools have social workers so that they can help identify needs. We also need to make sure our teachers have training. Our teachers may not have, should not be the ones that are providing the mental health treatment, but if they are seeing something, they should be able to make the referral. Then we also need to make sure that there is a good working relationship between the school districts and mental health. The Department of Mental Health is grossly underfunded, and over the last 10 years, it has continued to be, their funding has been stripped from the legislature. And so we have got to make sure that they do get their funding and that they have a relationship with the school districts so they can work with the school districts. In addition to that, we need to make sure that the Department of Education prioritizes the curriculums, social emotional learning and other things like that, because those are the things that if our teachers are trained on and they can recognize, then our students can get help immediately. And then the last thing I would say is that we need to make sure that as a community that our schools and our teachers are supported. When there are identified issues sometimes in the schools and teachers are making referrals, we do have parents and others that don't want to accept those types of diagnostics. And so we have to be able to understand from the community standpoint that it's not a stigma that a child might have mental health issues. They just need to be supported. And the community needs to understand that and support that family in making sure that that child gets the needs, gets the services that they need.
Thank you very much. Representative Garvin.
Absolutely. So at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic and when our schools closed down, what we have seen since that time is a rise in reported cases of mental health. And as has been said, schools are the front lines. As a former public school teacher, I know firsthand the job that our teachers are doing. Teachers have to be moms, they have to be dads, they have to be counselors, and they're having to deal with many of those issues. The General Assembly, as a result of Democrats being in that body, have for years pushed for more school funding for things such as social workers, for things such as psychologists, for things such as school counselors, to ensure that we're addressing the many challenges that we face as it relates to mental health. The General Assembly has also allocated, in the most recent budget, $20 million towards the Department of Juvenile Justice to build a new mental health facility. So we are working on this issue. While progress isn't as rapid as many of us would like to see it, we are having the conversations. And I'll tell you this, being in the minority party, a lot of what we do as Democrats down at the State House is we advocate for good bills. And oftentimes, those good bills are hijacked by folks in the other party. I've seen it happen too many times, Rep. Thigpen, where we've had a bill, and then a Republican comes and say, well, let me pass your good bill, and our bill that sat in committee for years gets passed in that same session. We will continue to be a voice and advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Juarez.
One of the arguments left out of mental health is environment. Parents and households need to be on the front lines. And in the words of the late John Scott, parents need to be parents again. Understand something. I want all of us to recognize that we need to stop treating our children like they are incapable, unaware, and uninterested. This generation is the generation that we need to bring down the patriarchal white supremacy system. Black children in particular are being squeezed into standardized tests, and parents need to know their rights and how to use the IEP process to ensure more successful outcomes with their children. You got to take time with your children. And we have to go back to being a village so that we can watch out and look out for Mother Cora's grandchildren and Tatiana's son that walks home from a good ways on the bus. We can contribute to the health and our mental state in our own community, and it begins with us. Stop trying to put all that on to somebody else. You have to take ownership of your children at home, and if you need help, you need to seek and ask and open up your mouth and ask for help, because South Carolina will take care of South Carolina's children. And the mental health of our children begins with our children watching adults act a fool. We have to govern ourselves accordingly and create the type of environment that broods healthy children. Children are being exposed to too much shenanigans and stuff that does not profit their mental capacity. And that's where we begin. I remember I couldn't watch everything and do everything I wanted to do.
Thank you. For this next question, we're going to start with you, Kizzy Smalls. Food deserts, as defined by the USDA, is a low-income tract or area where a substantial number or substantial share of residents do not have access, easy access that is, to a supermarket or a large grocery store. According to a Post and Courier newspaper article, 39 of South Carolina's 46 counties have a food desert. How would you address the problem of food deserts right here in the Palmetto State?
We do have an issue. One of the things that we need to do is encourage farming again. Right now, farming, it seems to be not a career that many people want to get into, but it's a much needed career to be in. When we have more access to farmers, we can be able to provide food to those areas. Another thing would be for the legislators to be able to fund farmers, because that's one of their biggest issues. It's not having enough money to deal with the issues of inflation and different things, gas prices, all of that affects the farming industry. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cordero.
Would you give me the question again, please?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
How would you address the problem of food deserts here in South Carolina?
You know, it always seems to me as though what I'm saying is that things are so simple. There's an ancient African philosophy which basically says that when it's complex, it is decadent, and simplicity is profound. You know where the food deserts are? We can spend all this money and give tax breaks to bring corporations in where we want them. Let's give some tax breaks to supermarkets and places that serve food and supply food and bring them in the communities that we need. Not far from where we're sitting here, there's a piece of property that was owned, or probably still is owned, by Walmart. They came in a couple years back and opened a neighborhood store. I don't know if you remember. They were there for about 2 years. They gave them tax breaks to open it. They opened the place up, and then 2 years later they were gone. But in the meantime, what they did was all the other little stores that were around, Family Dollar and Dollar General and all of those, they closed up. They're gone, and now Walmart is gone. The point is, you want to give somebody a tax break, give them a tax break to bring a store into the community and subsidize them to make sure that they make the money so we get healthy food in our communities, and that's how you end that. And that can be done through senatorial action.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are a lot of ways that we can address food deserts. First of all, you have to first acknowledge that that is an issue, and that if it was as easy to just open a grocery store, a lot of people would do it. And so you have to figure out a way, how do you support that? Not just opening up a grocery store and access to fresh fruits and vegetables, but how do you have it sustainable and keep it in the community? There are a lot of great models out there that we could look at. Number one are mobile food markets, which is something I worked on as a member of City Council. And after years of study of COVID, unfortunately, prevented it from happening when it was supposed to, but now it actually is coming to fruition. So mobile grocery stores are an option that a lot of places are doing. You also look at it's been mentioned farming, and we actually do have great farmers. We have Black women farmers. Benita Clemens, who is a member of Delta Sigma Theta, is organizing Black women farmers who actually farm, and then they bring their fresh fruits and vegetables to District 19 and give out food boxes. And so those kind of things, supporting her efforts and efforts like that. There are other efforts in Spartanburg, and due to the Greenville-Spartanburg delegation, they got funding for not only farming, but then it was a job training program for their returning citizens. And they were able to farm and then open up a restaurant. They used the fresh fruits and vegetables from the farm and serve it in the restaurant and do it as a job training program. That was actually earmarked from the legislature by the delegation in Spartanburg and Greenville. And so those are creative programs we can do here, but you have to identify that there's a problem and then be able to have creative opportunities to come to the community. Thank you.
Representative Garvin.
Thank you. Thank you. Addressing the issue of food insecurity is major. It is a shame that in 2023 that we're having the conversation about people not being able to access healthy fruits and vegetables. It's a shame that people have to drive miles and miles and miles to find the nearest grocery store. It is a problem. It's a problem that, number one, that we have to acknowledge, and number two, that we have to obviously work to find solutions for. I will tell you, as a state senator and as a state house member, what we've been able to do is obviously work with our local partners. And I'll tell you that this is also typically not an issue in regards to food deserts that would come directly before the General Assembly, given that it would be a local issue, and given that it would also be something that involves private partnerships where local government, whether it be the City of Columbia or Richland County, would take the lead on those sorts of things. As state legislators, we can fund initiatives when asked. Okay? So if somebody has an earmark or a budget request, we can then fund those local initiatives, but we can't just write a blank check and say, go build a grocery store. So we will continue to work with our local partners, if elected to the Senate, to find ways to address the issue of food insecurity, to find ways to ensure that kids are getting more than a TV dinner at night, to find ways to ensure that our kids are eating more than potato chips and popcorn and candy, and to ensure that our future is brighter. Thank you.
Mr. Juarez, same question.
As the president of the Broad River Business Alliance, I've already been working to really address these issues. And so the county has been a really good partner. There was a certain equity study that helped me kind of understand like the road work that I needed to take as an advocate and as a business chamber and community development specialist. But I want to tell you about this. I intend to take the state housing agency head on. It is very difficult to build the kind of density that we need to be able to put grocery stores on the other side of on the north end of I-20. It is incredibly difficult when the state housing agency won't allow me to count World Food Marketplace as the appropriate grocery store, even though it's 1.5 miles from, because it's not franchised, because it's not Publix, because it's not Food Line. So even if you put a grocery store in those places, which mind you, it's incredibly difficult to put a grocery store anywhere. The refrigeration that's needed and the systems that are required to be introductory are way more than most people actually have. So I'm looking to hold the State Housing Agency accountable to allow us to be able to use LIHTC type programs that we can create the kind of density through housing creation to build and construct more units that make our communities more desirable to put grocery stores in. If it doesn't have the density, you won't be able to see a grocery store there. And even if you open a grassroots cooperative, the state won't count it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nellums.
Yes, I think we need to go back to the roots. One of the things that we can do, number one, would be train and teach parents how to do small gardens at home. That would help a whole lot in the way of getting a nutritious meal. Traveling the state, I found out that food deserts, and a lot of us think just because I have a grocery store next to me, that does not constitute that that store has healthy food there. And what has happened is, within our neighborhood, black farmers have been overlooked. Somebody that looks like you cannot get the resources in order to plant a farm. I could go down the road time and time again, and you'll find out that there are folk that are in your vicinity that are doing farming and having to turn over their crops because nobody is purchasing it. And so that's another issue. We have a disconnect when it comes down to farming in the state of South Carolina for black folk. So I think as a senator, he has to be able to connect people together, and we can do that very simply by starting with the family, starting with those communities, starting with, you have a church right around the corner. I think Zion Canaan does a little food market.
Thank you very much. And we are back to where we started. Mr. Cordero, this question, we're going to start with you. Excuse me. On average, South Carolina women make 23% less than men doing similar work. South Carolina ranks 40th among the states on this measure. What initiatives would you support to remedy this pay inequity?
I worked for a company some time ago, and they gave me made me the offer of an increase in salary. And part of accepting it, they told me that I had to agree not to tell anyone else what they had offered me. Makes absolutely no sense to me. Why should we not know what everybody's making? The issue is clearly pay equity. The issue is very simple. What does that issue mean? That means that Ms. Devine and myself, if we're doing the same job and we bring the same credentials to the table, that we should both be paid at the same rate. Now, that doesn't mean if I was there longer that she should make the same thing I do, but we should all start out at the same, and any increases should be at about the same time. What it takes really is transparency. Simple as that. You tell people what you're going to pay them, and then you make sure you're paying equal wages for equal work. Male, female, black, white. Simple formula.
Ms. Isaac Devine.
Thank you. And this definitely is an issue an example of how you can have strong legislators on all sides of the aisles that can find commonality. A few years ago, I was at the State House with a press conference with Senator Katrina Shealy and Representative Wendy Brawley. They were both introducing bills on each sides of the aisle, or each chambers, about pay equity. I work and I volunteer with Women's Rights Empowerment Network, and we've lobbied and advocated for this bill passage for many years. And so this year, we saw a lot of success in that area. But in addition to that, you can't stop there. What our next state senator needs to do is make sure that as even these private companies are coming to the state asking for incentives, asking for breaks, that we also look at the private sector and making sure that they have not only diversity in their leadership, but they have pay equity. In addition to that, as a state senator, it is going to be our job to make sure that any business who is doing business in South Carolina, as we are regulating the way business is done, not just in government, because we can handle certain things in government agencies, but a lot of times it's the private sector. How do you make sure that pay equity is addressed in the private sector? And there's a lot of legislation that can be done. And as a state senator, you're going to have to be able to not only advocate for that, introduce and pass a bill, but then work across the aisle, just like Senator Shealy and Representative Brawley did.
Thank you very much. Representative Garvin.
South Carolina is one of the last states in the nation to have not passed the Equal Pay Act, ensuring that women are paid equitably in comparison to men. That's a shame. This bill has been introduced year after year, and guess what happens? It gets introduced, it goes to committee, and it dies. That's a problem. It's a problem. And we have to address it. We have to say that women deserve the same amount of money as their male counterparts. We have to be able and be willing to say that gender should not dictate one's income, and that simply because of your anatomy that you're entitled to more. But let me tell you the battle that we're fighting at the State House, given that we're in what's called a super minority. Given that the Republican Party controls every lever of government, from the governor's mansion to the state Senate to the House of Representatives. There has been a push against diversity. There has been a push against equity. And so when you hear buzzwords, like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, those things are being eradicated. And so we're in for a fight. And we need a senator who is experienced and who is ready on day one to go to the Senate and fight these radical policies, because we are in a battle for our future. We're going backwards, folks. We should be moving forward. And we have to have a senator that on day one is ready to lead. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Juarez.
Clear transparency in compensation is not just an ideal, but a necessity. Every employer, whether public or private, should be mandated to disclose the minimum salary for each position. This transparency will serve as a safeguard against hidden biases and wage discrepancies. It's alarming that 43% of women in the U.S. believe they are compensated less than their male counterparts for identical roles. Additionally, when it comes to advocating for oneself in wage discussions, 60% of women have never negotiated their pay, a contrast to 48% of men. This indicates not just a pay gap, but a confidence and representation gap. The absence of senior or visibly successful female role models is cited by nearly 2/3 of women as a significant barrier to their professional progression. What do I propose? To address these disparities, it's imperative to bolster support for businesses helmed by Black and female leaders. A push for amplifying manufacturing among women is crucial. There's power in economic self-reliance. Women should not only produce, but also preferentially purchase the products they regularly use from businesses led by other women.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nellum, same question.
Yes. I reflect back on the 1964 Civil Rights Act. I think it's Title 7, if I'm not mistaken, where it guarantees that. And then I reflect on, I think it was the ERA, Equal Rights. And those trailblazers that fought those years to make this happen, and now we see that everybody's rolling the clock back. And it's been said time and time again on this panel about what is going on in the General Assembly. And it's true. We do know that everyone should have the same pay. That's without being said. But I think there are things that we can do, and I think that we have to put certain things in place. And the first thing is we have to get ourselves together and say that we're going to start supporting goods and services among ourselves, and then being able to pay ourselves a fair wage. I think that's the start there. I think we need to deal with our own issues, and then move and say, this is us, this is what we're doing.
Thank you very much. And Kizzy Smalls.
I believe in pay equity. Most people do now have a little transparency in it. They may post a pay, but we cannot control what happens in an interview. So even though I am for transparency, if someone goes in there and believe they deserve more and they ask for it and they get it, we can't control that if another person go in there and they don't ask for more. So these types of cases are kind of hard to prove that it's not exactly fair. I guess the employer could turn that person down, but if that employer really wants that person, they will negotiate. So we have to know who we are. And if you believe that you are worth more, then you need to be asking for more. I'm seeing jobs at this point in history, they're giving it because we need good workers. That we have a lack of good workers out there that will stay on a job long enough. So they're willing to pay the money, but you got to ask for it.
Thank you very much. So that was our final question. And now we will give each candidate 1 minute for a closing remark. We will start with you, Mr. Cordero.
As I said before, we are at a crossroads. If we don't do something, this next session coming up, if we don't do something, they're going to turn back the clock, and it's going to turn it back to the 1950s. If you don't believe that, then there's nothing that we can do for you. They're taking your rights away, voting rights, women's reproductive rights, and the right to read a book. All of these things are taken, and these are the things that we fought for, and we have to continue to fight for. We need a fighter, and that person must go in there. I'm the only person here that sued, I think, the Democratic Party, and I have a lawsuit against the South Carolina Democratic Party because they disenfranchised over 100,000 of us. I didn't see anybody stand up to help me with that lawsuit. I'll fight because that's what I do. Send me there. As far as experience is concerned, I've got just as much experience, life experience, as anybody here. And believe me, my record, if you look at it, is nothing but a fighter from day one, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Isaac Devine.
Thank you so much to the organizing organizations for hosting us. Thank you for all of you for being here. We are at a critical time in our state. We have an opportunity to send someone to the state senate, not only that is ready on day one and has almost 2 decades of real experience of providing resources and action deliverable items to this community, but also understands how to get things done. Don't be fooled. People will tell you that you need a certain amount of experience to be here. You can be in a position, but look at what you've actually done. I have the lived experience. I have the track record of delivering and providing and protecting this community and fighting for this community. Introducing legislation is one thing, but getting it passed is something else. Don't be fooled that it's a super minority and you can't get things done. That's an excuse to not actually deliver. I will be up there and I can deliver for this community. I can work across the aisles. I can get things done. I have done it before. I will do it again. I ask for your vote and your support on October 24th.
Thank you very much. Representative Garvin.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here tonight. This election on October 24th is about our future. I am so honored to have the support of Mrs. Joan Scott, the wife of Senator John L. Scott Jr., because Ms. Scott knows just what's at stake in this election. She knows, and she also knows that I am somebody that has the ability and that has the proven track record of getting things done at the legislature. I will tell you, given that we are in a super minority, it's crucial that we send somebody who on day one is ready to lead, somebody who has the relationships, and somebody that has fought for things such as Black maternal health, somebody who has helped pass bills that end the shackling of pregnant women in jail, somebody who has delivered over $500,000 to an organization such as the Hive that supports women of color who have been raped. I am that candidate in this race, and we need your help on October 24th. Go to CambrellGarvin.com to learn more about our platform and, of course, to give. Thank you all for your support. Thank you for being here, and thank you for organizing this event. Good night, everybody.
Mr. Juarez.
I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude for this opportunity. What I love about being a millennial is that my fight is quite different. I'm not interested in arguing your philosophies. I'm interested in brokering peace because I'm charged by God to love first. And then secondly, I'm here to broker deals that make sense for us. We can save all that other personal jargon a little bit later. I know for a fact that in this House, Republicans are ready to make deals with us. They need our talents, our gifts, our abilities. We make everything go around. So why not sit in those gifts and begin to leverage that talent, those abilities, and our resources in a way that makes sense for us? I invite you to visit my table and also visit district19sc.com. I've dedicated myself to reducing the environmentally harmful chemicals that are found in campaign materials. So any investments that you provide to my campaign are actually really investments directly into the community. Grassroots is still alive. We can still move it together. We are not a lost cause.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nellums.
This evening, we have heard a lot of talking points, but we need to get to the root of the issue. Who will you serve? Who will you send to serve you? And one of the things that I find out is that you need someone that's going to be able to go in that back room. I keep mentioning that back room because that back room is real. And you need someone that's going to look out for your best interests and not special interests. And so I invite you tonight, as they wrap up the primary, and we will rail up our candidacy, that you will have a clear understanding of what we will provide for you. I have 1 year, and I'm asking you for 1 year to go against everything that you could possibly think about and elect someone in a third party that will represent your best interests, that has no hidden agendas and no compromise.
Kizzy Smalls.
Thank you. Thank you again for hosting this event and giving me an opportunity to share with you all. There are several reasons why I got in this race. One, I wanted to be able to give the people another option because I believe that we're at a turning point in our history where we are willing to do something different. Number two, I believe that enough is enough. I am sick and tired of people playing politics with people's lives and livelihood. And it's time for us to come together so that we can serve our community together and put party politics aside. And number three, Richland County has some of the highest property taxes and state taxes, and it is affecting our public schools. Inflation is at an all-time high. Crime is on the rise. Credit card debt is going through the roof, and we need someone that will work with the people to make sure that you keep your money in your pocket.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's give our candidates a round of applause. This concludes our forum for this evening. We would like to thank all of our sponsors for organizing this event, the candidates for attending, Cynthia Flynn for the important job of timekeeping. I don't think I couldn't have done that. And most of all, you, the audience, for listening and becoming more informed voters for the October 24th primary and the special election on Saturday, January 2nd. Thank you all for attending, and I turn it back over to you.
Yes, thank you all for, oh, it's still on. We want to thank you all for attending. And right now, before we leave, if you can take out your telephone, you should have received a small card with the Vote 411 information on it. If you if you scan the QR code on your card, it will open up to the Vote 411 page. You go down and you look for a sample ballot or Find My Information. And what you can do is pull up the ballot with the information from the candidates this evening, and you can go ahead, fill out your sample ballot, get information about your voter registration and any other needs regarding your voter status for this election and those those going forward. Again, vote411.org if the card's giving you some problems, because with, I think, Samsung phones, it can be kind of funny sometimes. So vote411.org, and if you go and you look at Find My Ballot or what's on my ballot, it will pull it up. You can read in our voter guide. information about each candidate because each of them kindly responded to the League of Women Voters query, asking them to participate in this voter guide so that you can see firsthand or hear firsthand from the candidates about information and issues that are important to you. So again, thank you so much from the League of Women Voters, Richland County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, and all of our partners. Thank you so much for coming out. And remember, go vote. All right.
I love it.
Good. Good job. Good job.
Good seeing my friend. God bless you too, my friend. Good seeing you. I got an awesome job as always. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm pushing. Thank you for the gift.